Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at USAGlobalTV.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Oh, we're on now. Hey, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I am Keith SALTOJANES, the host of the perfect podcast show. That's right. I was a writer for National Lampoon and all those other things that were listed there as well. And this is my new show, weekly show every Tuesday, the perfect podcast show, where I do the most perfect podcast there is. Nothing goes wrong. Everything is clear. And this is a very special episode because it is a retrospective. Is that the right word? We'll find out. Retrospective look at the first season of our weekly podcast show. So we're going to look back on all the fine memories of this first season from episode 1, because this is episode 2. It's a best of, baby. Everybody loves a best of. But of course, we like to begin every perfect podcast show with an inspiring quote, something to give you hope for these hard times and hope during the week ahead. And this is the quote today. It's from an author. You might have heard of him. His name is Mark. I think that's his fake name. Anyways, here's the quote to inspire your week. Oh, there it is. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. And that is from Mark Twain. Mark Twain. Mark Twain. There it is. Mark Twain. The secret of getting started is the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Okay, that is Mark Twain. He's a writer. He's an author. So the secret to getting ahead is getting started. He wrote books I think he was part of the Harry Potter series. Can't really remember Mark Twain. I do believe that wasn't his real name. His real name was something, wasn't he a collection of different authors? I'm thinking of William Shakespeare, who was a collection of authors. That's a whole nother story. But the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Okay, so let's break that down. What does that mean? How can we use that in our lives every day? The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Okay, the secret. What's a secret? A secret is something that you don't tell anyone. It's just for you, right? Don't tell the secret. Hey, can you keep a secret? That's what a secret is. It's something you don't tell anyone. You keep it to yourself. Private information. Okay, so the private information of getting ahead. What does getting ahead mean? Getting ahead. I guess that means if you're driving, or I guess Mark Twain, did he have a car? Maybe a horse and buggy? So getting in front of someone else. Okay, so the private information of getting in front of someone else. Okay, we're doing great so far. The private information of getting ahead of someone else is getting started. So getting started. What does that mean? It's the opposite of finishing, because starting, finishing, that's the opposite. So getting started, I guess, is waking up in the morning, because that's how we all get started, right? We start our day in the morning getting started. So the private information of getting in front of someone else is waking up in the morning. That feels more confusing to me, honestly. The private information of getting in front of someone is waking up in the morning. Okay, so maybe, okay, I get it. Mark Twain is trying to say, if you have private information, a secret, if you will, the secret is to get in front of someone. So wake up I know what this is about. This is about if you have a roommate or if you were at your family's place. Oh, Mark Twain had a buggy, I think. Okay, thank you so much. Mark Twain had a buggy. So the secret to getting in front of someone is waking up early. This means, yeah, if you're at like your family's house or if you have a roommate and you only have one bathroom, the secret to getting in that bathroom first is waking up early. That's what this quote means. So, you know, when you are there and you have to jump in the shower or brush your teeth or use the loo, as Mark Twain probably said, the secret of that is getting up a little bit earlier than everybody else and then using the toilet. That's what it must mean. Wow. So there's an inspiring quote for you for your week. Wake up earlier than everyone else so you can get in that bathroom early. Thank you, Mark Twain. Thank you. That's very, very handy. Wow. All right. So before we get into the main part of our show, the best of retroactive, retro clothing, retrospective of the best of season 1, we first have to take a look at an ad from one of our sponsors with this quick little video ad. Stay tuned. This episode of The Perfect Podcast Show is brought to you by... Yo, this is Snoop Dogg. That's right, it's really me, Snoop D-O-double-G, to tell you about readingmadeeasy.com. Helping your kids learn to read is the B-E-S-T thing you can do for them as a parent. P-A-R-E-N-T, which is why right now readingmadeeasy.com is offering 20% off OFF of all their courses online. O-N-L-I-N-E. So don't waste no more time. Just visit readingmadeeasy.com today. That's readingmadeeasy.com and start learning to read. R-E-E-D. Wow, one of our sponsors there, Snoop D-O-double-G. I think that really was Snoop Dogg. It sounded exactly like him. Well, thank you for that ad, Snoop, if I may call you Snoop, maybe Dr. Dog, Mr. Dog. But now, here we go. The best of season 1 of the Perfect Podcast Show. I would also like to note that the name of the show has changed since week 1. It used to be called the super #1 best Perfect Podcast Show, but we shortened it a little bit to the Perfect Podcast Show. So if there's any confusion, it is the same show. In any of these clips we're going to show, it's the same show, just the name has changed. But let's get into it. Just to recap, season 1, what did we cover in season 1? Season 1, we had a quote last week, of course, and then our wonderful, amazing guest last week. I don't know how he found the time. Mr. Bob Iger was here, which was so exciting. We had Bob Iger here. So let's take a little look back on some of those memories of season 1. Here we go. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio and the first episode of this show, the super #1 best perfect podcast. I am your host. Oh, see, the titles are there and there and there. I'm your host, Keith SALTOJANES, and this is going to be a very, very, very exciting episode for the first one. I cannot believe the guest that I have for this very first episode. It is going to be very, very exciting. For those of you who don't know, I used to have the #1 podcast. I did 14 and a half episodes in Funafuti, Tuvalu, small little country, until the government general kicked me off the air for having more followers than him. Wow. I remember that. Good times. We introed the show. No, this is, we're in episode 2 now. That was a recap of the first episode. I know it's confusing because I said welcome to the first episode, but now we're in the second episode. That was a clip looking back on our first season. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Funny. Oh, wow. Funny. Thank you. Creative. Yes, I'm just trying to do the perfect podcast show. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you so much. Is Mark Twain and Mark Wahlberg. Wait, doesn't Mark Twain have Twain Burgers? Doesn't he have that chain of burger places called Twain Burgers? I'm really confused. I got to call up Mark Twain afterwards and see. Wow, that was a good memory in episode 1. Welcoming everyone to the first show. Wow, it feels so long ago. Wow. Howdy, Janetta. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Wow. Okay, well, let's take a look again at some of our highlights from season 1. Let's see our next highlight from season 1. Here we go. Let's see. Let's take a look back down memory lane of season 1. Is Mr. Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. Come on in, Bob. Wow. All right, Bob Iger. Okay. Let's see. Bob Iger is here. Can you hear me, Bob? Okay, let's see. Can't. This is the perfect podcast. Everything is going right. Nothing is wrong. He's probably just, fixing his tie. Bob, are you there? Okay, he just sent me a text. He said, turn the camera on. For me to turn it on? Okay, let's see if I can figure this out here. Bob, not seeing any options. Okay, he's saying hit the camera button. Okay, let's see. That turned my camera off. And you can't hear me, Bob? Bob, we have Bob Iger here. You can't hear me? He keeps texting me the little choo-choo text sound. Wow. Okay, he can't hear me. Okay, how about this? No one can hear me now. Okay, you can't see me. Okay, Bob Iger is here. That's okay. Bob, you're here. Let's see if we can figure this out. Again, this is the perfect podcast. Wow, I remember that. What a time. What a time that was. We had Bob Iger here with us in that first season, and we just couldn't get his camera on. I don't know what was going on, but we've learned so much since then. But having Bob Iger as a guest was what a huge thing for our first season, first episode of our weekly show. And here we are in week 2. It was incredible. And just like we couldn't figure out how to get Bob Iger in the room, even though Bob Iger was totally here. He was definitely a guest. It was so long ago. What a throwback. Thank you so much, Julie. What a throwback it was. So long ago. Just funny times when we're trying to figure out technology. Just sometimes technology doesn't work for you and you want it to. And we had actual real Bob Iger with us in that first episode of our first season so long ago. The memories, just the memories of that. We've learned so much. Just thinking about it, Bob Iger. What a good time. What a good time to have Bob Iger with us. Oh yeah, hope you can train me. Yay, I can train anyone how to do the perfect podcast, because that's what we're doing here, the perfect podcast show. And with our today retrospective, introspective, kaleidoscope-spective, Bob was gone. Bob was there and he was gone. But let's take a look back and see some more highlights from season 1 of the Perfect Podcast Show, which used to be called a different name, but now it is the Perfect Podcast Show. Let's take another look back at another classic moment from season 1. Universal Studios is well known for their mascot, which of course is Mickey Mouse, which we have right here. Beautiful Mickey Mouse. There he is with his famous yellow hat and yellow pocket, which Mickey is known because he carries Pluto around in a yellow pocket. And most people think that Mickey always wears white gloves, but as you can see here, which looks like a behind the scene photo of Mickey, he's not wearing white gloves. This is Mickey on his day off. Mickey has a yellow hat, right? I believe he does. That is some mouse costume, not even close to Mickey, says Bob Iger. This isn't Mickey? Are you sure? Spot sound. Okay. I thought this looks like Mickey to me. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure this is Mickey. Clearly not Mickey. What is happening? Why am I still on this podcast? Okay. I'll leave that then. Wow. Okay. So Bob, can you still let him call you on his phone and relay the voice to the viewers? Oh, that's a good idea. Wow. Another throwback moment to season 1. What a good time. What a good time. So someone commented, can I ask Bob Iger his favorite food at Disney? Just to be clear, this isn't happening live. That was the first episode, which happened last week, this is the best of episode 2. So I can't ask Bob Iger right now his favorite food at Disney because he's not here. Just to be clear again, this is not happening live. So is Mickey working now with Bob the Builder? Again, those are pre-recorded clips. This right now is happening live, and that was pre-recorded, so I can't go back in time and ask Bob those questions now. Again, this is a best of episode. We're looking back, retro music, retro clothing, retrospectively. No, this episode right now is live. Everything I'm doing now is live in the moment. Again, this is live. This isn't in the past. When we're looking back from season 1, which was last week, that was all in the past. And none of that can be changed because I can't time travel currently. So I can't really change those things. But anything you want to ask me now, I can answer. But if you're asking about things in the past, I can't change what was happening because this is the live moment of the show. This is the best of show, episode 2, where we're looking back on episode 1, which happened already. That makes sense, right? I think that makes sense. Anyways, so we're not, Back to the Future is back. Okay, so I mean the movie Back to the Future, this is the perfect podcast show, not a movie. This isn't a movie happening right now. This is a live podcast show. Back to the Future is a movie. They did 3 of them. I don't know if you're saying I look like Marty McFly or Doc Brown, or I look like a DeLorean. Maybe you think I look like a car, but again, this is just a podcast show, not a movie. We're not time traveling, just showing some clips of our best of, celebrating our first week on the air with a look back, a retrospective, retroly into season 1. Okay. So last week me understands now. That sentence is grammatically wrong, but we'll let it fly. There's technical errors, probably autocorrect. That's okay. Let's just take another. How can we believe you? Well, I mean, I'm answering this now. How can we believe you? You asked that now, and this is live, so I can answer that now because it's live. If you were to comment last week, I wouldn't be able to answer it because that's all pre-recorded information. Anything live now, I can answer. So I can answer it. So that's how, look, I'll snap my fingers. And I did because it's happening live. I don't know if that helped or made things more confusing. Anyways, best of season 1. Let's take another look back and see another great moment from last season. Okay, let's see what this one is. Great deals, huge deals. You got the Muppets, you got Indiana Jones, and you also got, okay, here, I'll pull it up right now, a huge library of some of the best sci-fi of all time. Of course, I'm talking about this right here, which is Star Trek. Another amazing thing owned by Disney. And look at the shows that we have here. We have Discovery, Prodigy, Lower Decks, Picard, Strange New Worlds, the original series, The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, the animated series. Bob just said, we get it. You know how to read. Also, we own Star Wars, not Star Trek. Wait, what's the difference? Star Trek, Star Wars. I thought it was the same thing. It's like space. I'm looking at it here. I see a spaceship. I see people in uniforms. I see stars. Look at the movies. We have Star Trek 1, the motion picture. Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier. Star Trek V1, The Undiscovered Country. Wow, Undiscovered Country. That's not even a planet. Star Trek Generations. Star Trek V111, First Contact. Star Trek 1X, Insurrection. Okay, Insurrection. Should we say that anymore? I don't know. Is that Star Trek Nemesis? Star Trek 2009. That's not the best title compared to the other ones. Star Trek Into the Darkness. Star Trek Beyond. All of these. I know you're texting me. You're saying these are different. I don't know. I think it's the same. I think you might be wrong here, Bob. I think this is owned by Disney. Look at all these beautiful Star Treks with all these beautiful posters until we get to 2009, and it's completely different. That's wild. I have never seen any of these clearly. I don't see Chewbacca anywhere, Luke Skywalker. But let's see some news and updates behind. Wow. What a good memory that was. Just going back and looking at all those things that I now know that Star Trek is not owned by Disney. I did think that then. I was so confused. Star Trek, Star Wars is owned by Disney. So someone asked, can I ask Bob Iger his favorite Star Trek movie? Again, that was pre-recorded. This is live. I can't go back and ask Bob Iger questions now because we don't have him here now. He was absolutely definitely here last week, but right now in episode 2, which is happening now live, the best of, Bob Iger is not our guest. So I cannot go back in time and ask Bob Iger a question because it's pre-recorded. That's already recorded. That's already done. I can't go back and do that. So again, just to reiterate, this is a best of. We're looking at clips of the past. I can't go back into those clips and change them, but I can answer any questions now. Just I can't answer for Bob because Bob is his own person. So I can answer live questions now, but not going back in time. Just to be clear, those are all recorded clips. This is live. That's recorded. Great. Okay, wow, best of, going great. The perfect podcast show, off to a great little past halfway part. So many good memories in season 1. We had the best of Bob Iger. No, it's the best of season 1. I mean, best of Bob Iger would be another idea for an episode where we can highlight his best moments. Maybe that can be an episode, but right now it's the best of season 1 of the perfect podcast show, which again had a name change. Originally was called the Super Number 1 Best, the Perfect Podcast, something like that. It was too long and confusing, so we changed it. But this is the same show. This is the same show. This is the best of that other show that had a different name, but it's still the same show, even though I'm saying it was another show. It was the same show. Okay, this is the same show, same host, but that was last week, and this is this week, and I can only answer questions about this week. So can't go back in time. Let's go back. Let's look at some more clips here because I think I'm getting more confusing with things. So let's look at some more clips from the best of season 1, a look back, a retro railroad, retro, it's retro. It's retro. All right, so let's have a look back. I think he was a part of the silent movie last week. Yes, again, last week, couldn't figure out Bob's sound and video, but he was here. He was in the studio. He was definitely on the episode. I can promise you is actually Bob Iger. If you see him, you can ask, and he'll answer you. He'll give you an answer, that's for sure. Let's have a look back on a great memory, one of the highlights of season 1. Wait a second. Okay, if I go down to settings, hold on. If I go to settings down here, I see something. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I know how to turn your camera on. This is amazing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. I figured it out. Welcome to the Super Number 1 Best Perfect Podcast. The CEO of Disney and not Universal Studios, Mr. Dr. Bob Iger. Here he is. Bob, are you still there? Bob, are you? Okay, it looks like he's at Disney. Bob, are you there? Well, I guess we just missed him. I guess now that I figured out he's gone. Well, thank you for being here, Bob. We'll try to have you on another episode now that I figured out how to turn on the guest camera. That'll be handy for the future. But thank you so much, Bob. We'll see you later. Thanks for joining, Bob. Wow. What a moment. What a moment. We got Bob Iger. We figured out how to fix his camera. We figured it out. But Bob was already gone, probably went on, Space Mountain or went into the Enchanted Tiki Room. Bob's got stuff to do. So he wasn't there once we got it on. Okay, people are saying turn Bob's camera on, turn Bob's mic on. Again, that was in the past. Yeah, I can't go back and do that. I can't go back into the past. That was a video. It was a video of season 1. Thank you. It was an amazing experience with Bob. Even though we couldn't see him, I can promise you he was here last week. He's not here now because now is now, and that was the past. So he's not here now, but he was here previously last week. So I can't go back and I can't fix his camera or his sound, but I can promise you that he was in the studio last week. And this is a look back on the highlights of the perfect podcast show. And again, it did have a different name as you saw. It had a different name, a different background, but it's the same show. Same show in the past. This is episode 2, the best of season 1. Last week was our first episode of our weekly show. Got it. I think this all makes sense. Okay, let's see if we have one more clip to share of looking back in our retro food, retro film, retro. I'm just going to say retro. We couldn't see him. Okay, no, I know. Yeah, no, we couldn't see him and he was in another dimension. But Star Trek, I know now, Star Trek is not owned by Disney, which hence, therefore, is not owned by Bob Iger because Bob Iger owns Disney. So Star Trek is unrelated. I don't even know if he likes Disney. No, I'm not related to Bob at all. Bob is not my uncle, and I'm not Bob's uncle. He was just a special guest. He was just a guest on the show. We have guests for the show. If you want to be a guest for the show, you can sign up and be a guest for the show. Reach out. But Bob is not my uncle. No, I'm none related to Bob. Anyways, this is a best of. Let's have one more clip and look at another beautiful highlight of season 1. I think we got one more. Just about to close. But as you go down this week and you aren't sure what's going to happen, remember the most important thing. If you take one thing from this episode, the most important thing to remember is that you always must yes, I remember that moment. What a great moment that was. The closing moments of our first episode. And I forget that every episode is under 30 minutes. I cannot go over 30 minutes. Well, no, that was last week. Last week was over. Last week, that was I feel like I'm just confusing people here. That was last week. That was a clip of last week when last week ended. So that was a little clip of the final show, not the final show, the final moments of the show of last week's show. This is a different episode. That was another episode. That was episode 1. That was the ending of episode 1. This is episode 2, and episode 2 is still going now. It is live. But again, it has to be done with under 30 minutes. The perfect podcast show is under 30 minutes. It cannot go over 30 minutes. So just to be clear, that was last episode, and I got cut off because of time. But we're not going to do that again because we learned, and that's the thing. Every episode, we're going to learn how to make the perfect podcast. Last week, couldn't figure out Bob's audio or video. We learned that. We also learned that Star Trek is not owned by Disney. I also learned that that is not Mickey Mouse. I think it could still be Mickey Mouse. I also learned that Bob Iger is 100% not my uncle, but he was a guest on the show. This is all true. So thank you for looking back with us today in season 1. All those fond memories of, so long ago, all those wonderful things of season 1. Feels like just last week, because it was. And this now is the end of episode 2. Well, not yet, because I'm still talking, so don't go anywhere. This is the closing. We're getting to the end of episode 2, which was our best of season 1. And season 1 happened last week with episode 1, and this is now episode 2, which is a best of season 1 of the perfect podcast show. It all makes sense to me. So to leave you with something to take into your week, remember, as much as you try to be perfect, things can never be perfect as much as you try. And when you're out there and you're in the world and you don't know how things are and things are confusing, and maybe there's Bob Iger, maybe it's not Bob Iger, maybe it's Walt Disney, maybe we don't know who it is, maybe it's Mark Twain or Mark Wahlberg, we don't know. But the one thing to take with you and the one thing to remember is that you always must